Hi, Tommy Heffernan here, veterinary consultant with Precision Microbes, back here for video 6 in our series of Being Brilliant at the Basics, a look at the equine gut and the gut microbiome. Today I'm going to talk about a topic that's very interesting and really topical. That's leaky gut, sometimes it's referred to as inflammatory bowel disease. And it's not just in horses, in humans and other animal species. There's an increasing amount of research on the impact of leaky gut locally in the digestive system, but also on the systemic effects. So what is leaky gut? We'll talk about it in a bit and describe what it actually is. It is as described. But what are the causes of leaky gut? Well, there's primarily, number one would probably be diet and dietary changes, maybe high starch diets. Stress has quite an impact. We're going to talk about that in a later video series and the mechanisms there. Antibiotics, oral antibiotics for a long period of time can impact the gut microbiome, and environmental toxins. That's not an exclusive list, but there are some of the causes, potential causes. Diet being high up, particularly dietary changes, because it, like we said in video 2, can shift the diversity of the gut microbiome, can shift the pH of the hindgut in particular. What are the symptoms we look at? Well, the obvious symptoms will be diarrhea, colic, horses that are losing weight. Sometimes it can be skin, because if we've got inflammation in the gut, as I'll explain about leaky gut, well then it can have multi-systemic effects. Horses that are just not doing well, poor performance, maybe horses, I'll talk about for equine gut ulcer syndrome as well. Horses that are recurring ulcers, maybe going on treatment, coming off it and relapsing quite quickly. Again, there's a lot of work been done on metabolic syndrome and laminitis and linking it to the gut. Okay, so there's lots of potential causes. The symptoms are very similar to maybe some other diseases and conditions we discussed before, but it is important to understand what's happening in the digestive system and why it could have such an impact. So if we go into the lumen of the gut and we think about down at a cellular level, remembering in the other videos I've said there's one layer of cells between the digesta and all these immune cells that's in the lumen, all these white blood cells. And if we look at a healthy gut microbiome, what do we have? Well, we have a nice mucin layer protecting it, we have nice cell apposition, tight junctions between the cells, and we've got a diverse and healthy gut microbiome. So these trillions of bacteria. So they're aiding digestion, they're regulating immune function, and they're competing with harmful pathogens. When we have some of the triggers or risks for leaky gut, what we get is a disruption. So if you look at cell apposition, just like we described, basically leaky gut is where we get translocation of antigens, toxins, food particles, because that nice integrity between the cells is broken down. And there's a number of factors there, but usually it's a shift in the microbiota. Also, this important mucin layer can be damaged. So the real challenge with leaky gut is, just like it describes, we can get translocation. See if my purple marker. So if we look at pathogens, it's maybe harmful toxins, we can get these coming through translocation, this leaky, so that the gut's permeable. So what that translocation will do, will often set off immune reactions locally in the gut. But we know that the local immune system in the gut is connected to the horse's general immune system. So particularly with chronic inflammation and chronic leaky gut here, it can be a real challenge. So we get a breakdown of the mucin layer, we got poor cell apposition and translocation of pathogens causing immune dysregulation. And the challenge with leaky gut is when we look at the symptoms, like obvious symptoms like diarrhea and maybe colic, sometimes they can be very mild and low grade. If we look at some of the risk factors, particularly diet, maybe high starch diet, that's a normal part of the routine of our horses. So low grade leaky gut, again, warning, observational evidence from the work that I've been doing with Precision Microbes, could be a factor in a lot of our horses, maybe low grade. So again, if we have those horses that are maybe subtle behavioural changes, just not putting on condition, have been wormed and a lot of work's been done, I think it's something to consider, that low grade leaky gut. Because the problem with leaky gut is there's so many other organs, as we'll discuss in future videos, that are impacted by gut health, that this can be multifactorial in its presentation. Again, a very important thing we need to think about is just that simple mucin layer that protects the cells here, the slimy type layer. It's involved as a physical barrier, it traps pathogens, it provides lubrication, and of course it helps with immune regulation and supports actually, and the good microbes can feed off it. So when we've that breakdown barrier, it's a very important component of the gut microbiome, and you see a reduction of it with leaky gut. So leaky gut is a phenomenon that we are learning more and more about, and there's lots of triggers that are normal in a horse's routine and lifestyle that we do every day with diet, exercise and stress that could be contributing. Just two interesting syndromes, and again this is observational evidence and there's a lot of research on this area. So equine gastric ulcer syndrome, so stomach ulcers. There's some evidence looking at the hindgut. So I talked about the hindgut quite a bit in video 1 and 2. It's where all our fermentation is occurring. It's where a lot of the microbial activity is and the production of volatile fatty acids breaking down plant materials. Where we have an unhappy hindgut, we have potentially leaky gut, it may be affecting some of our horses, making some of our horses more prone to gastric ulceration. Again, it's an area of continued research. If we look at glucagon-like peptide 2 is released by the intestines, and that regulates acid production. When you have inflammation in the gut, that feedback loop may be missing, meaning an overproduction of acid. So certainly where we see horses that are non-responsive ulcers or maybe recurring quite quickly after maybe treatment is taken out, we should be thinking about these. And again, it's an area of research, and it kind of makes sense if you go back to video 1 and we think about the volume of the digestive tract and the various organs. The stomach makes up 10% of the overall volume. The hindgut makes over 60%, small colon, large colon, cecum and rectum. So if we think about a lot of focus is in the foregut, but maybe the hindgut could be potentially causing issues. Another condition we'll see that's sometimes mentioned around the leaky gut and inflammatory bowel space is free fecal water syndrome. So who loves acronyms? I've got lots of them here today. Free fecal water syndrome, where we've got normal feces been passed and maybe water after it, or water and then normal feces. Again, a lot of ongoing research, but it has been thought to be linked to dysbiosis or inflammation in the hindgut. Okay, so leaky gut, there's a lot more research required, but certainly when we look at it, low-grade leaky gut could be a factor in a lot of our horses, and some of the symptoms we're seeing, from skin to behavior to obvious digestive things like colic and diarrheas. Again, working with your own veterinarian around diagnosis is really important. If you go to Precision Microbes website, our equine complementary feed, our hashtag for this video series is just try it. Certainly as a complementary feed, it's designed to optimize digestive health. If your horse, you've done the diagnostics and it fits some of the characteristics of potentially leaky gut, it's well worth doing a 60-day trial. It's in feed daily, optimizing digestive health. It's a very unique product. So that's video, number 6 on leaky gut in our series. So I'll see you for video 7 with some ideas and thinking around colic and the gut microbiome.
His coat is after brightening up. He was a little bit wishy-washy in his coat, but it's after shining, it's after coming in just in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So I put that down, and he's chilled out as well, so it's great stuff because it gets him all relaxed.